everyone. Hope you all are doing great. And first of all, I am Neha Dhyani, and today it's a pleasure being a part of this InfoSec Girls community. And today we have two amazing speakers lined up. One is Krity Kharbanda, and another is Gunjan Chiller. So let me give you a brief introduction about Krity first. Krity comes from a very sound security background. She's a intern at one of the security startup organization. She's based out of Delhi. And today, Kriti will be talking about the emerging need of the cloud security. And then eventually we will have Gunjan who will be taking up the another session. So Kriti, over to you. The floor is all yours.
Thank you, Neha ma'am. I'm Kriti, as Neha ma'am already introduced me. I just graduated in the year 2020, and currently I'm working at a startup called Seclogic Limited. So today I'll be speaking about the emerging need of the cloud security. Let's go. I hope it goes well, and if I make a mistake, please just forgive me. This is my first time. Neha
Kriti,
ma'am, is
you
it
can
visible?
take up the screen and then you can get started with your session.
Yeah, like I've started sharing my screen. Is it visible? Mm, okay. So, as I said, the topic for today is emerging need of the cloud security. Why did I choose to speak about the need of cloud security when everyone in the time of 2020, because we are working from home, is talking about cloud security? Cloud security has become one of the major topics of discussion, especially in this year. So, why did I choose this topic? I actually wanted to lay emphasis on two most important things. One, we all are talking about cloud security and reading a lot of articles about it, but do we really know what exactly cloud security is? I wanted to tell you my opinion, what I think cloud security really is in this talk. And second is some of the small changes that we can make to have the big saves in future or at the present also. So before we start with the cloud security, I would give a brief introduction on what is cloud. Even though everybody knows what is cloud, but I'll just give the description according to me. So what I feel is when you are working on a personal laptop, so you call it your workspace. So when you're working on the cloud, it's a ubiquitous workspace. You can have your personal workspace anywhere, whenever, at whichever place you're sitting. If you get that advantage of having your personal workspace at any place, that thing is known as cloud. The privilege that you're getting is through the cloud. So cloud is the ubiquitous workspace. It has everything from whichever operating system you want, the amount of storage you want to have, the different softwares, everything. So and there are a lot of benefits of cloud security. One of the major benefit is of speed. Like what happens is after some time when we're working on a personal computer or something or a laptop, we see a problem that after some time the laptop or something, the speed gets like the speed issues start coming up. So when you're working on the cloud, there's no issue of the speed. And there are other benefits which are very much like flexibility, agility, no maintenance. It can be easily upgraded. You don't have to worry about, oh, I have to delete my data or I have to shift my data so that I can have a proper space, working space. Everything gets covered in the cloud itself. So when we talk about on-premise, when we're working on on-premise, we often tend to take a different antivirus softwares or things in get them installed in our computer. Why do we do that? We do that to protect our data. For us, the protection of data is the topmost priority. So same goes when we are working on the cloud. Since I said the cloud is a ubiquitous workspace. So at a workspace, when you concerned on a personal workspace, you're concerned about data, the protection of data. Similar goes with the cloud. So what I say is cloud security is data security. I'll tell you why in detail when we go further. So, because everything what we do, the changes that we make to the infrastructure, the operating system, is because we don't want our data to get leaked or breached. The data could be anything, the personal information, the confidential. So that's why. Okay. Getting back to the cloud a little bit. So cloud, it's of three types. The deployment of cloud is of three types. It's the private, public, and hybrid. Public is something that we get from the third party vendors like AWS, Azure, GCP, some of the common ones in the market right now. And private cloud could be something which an organization or a business has in-house. Like they have the cloud, they have all the services, but only the people working at that organization are able to access to that cloud, and no one else outside from the organization can access that cloud. And then comes the hybrid one. Hybrid is a combination of both the public cloud and the private cloud and the private cloud. So I'll not go into depth of any of these things because this is not the major concern or major topic of the talk. So one more thing that is very important is the three types of services that we have. The most common three types of services that we have under cloud computing is as PaaS and SaaS. That is infrastructure as service, platform as service, and software as a service. So, what is infrastructure as a service is, uh, just one more thing before I explain it. Today, I'll be speaking from the point of view of the public cloud. So, when you are opting for a public cloud, that means you are opting for the cloud services from a cloud provider, a third party vendor. So when you're opting from the services from the third party vendor and you opt for infrastructure as a service, what you do is you're just opting for the virtual machine and the operating system and the storage and the storage capabilities that you'll have. So everything else that you build over that operating system, you have your own kinds of softwares that you want or anything, that is the responsibility of the consumer. The provider is not concerned about it. But when we come to platform as a service, along with the operating system, you'll also get the kind of software that you want to work on already installed, and the management of those softwares will be done by the provider and not the consumer. And the third service, that is software as a service. So what happens is a software as a service is everything from the virtual machine to networking, operating system, everything to handling all maintenance of all the stages, upgradation, putting security patches and everything is done by the provider. The consumer is just consuming it. So when we talk about these three services, these three are the base from where the security concerns start. So if you're going for as, you have a lot of part in your hand which you'll be handling for the security because you are handling the major portion of the infrastructure. When we go to PaaS, the things reduce, and when we go to SaaS, it reduces a lot. But one thing that remains common in all three of them, I'll just show you. It's the data access security. So if you can see, the orange stands for the consumer responsibility, blue is for the provider responsibility, and the mixed one, that's the shared. So in shared, some parts of that application or that portion will be taken care by the provider and the rest will be taken care by the consumer. So as I said, infrastructure as a service. In infrastructure as a service, when we talk about the security, only the physical infrastructure security and virtualized infrastructure security will be taken care by the consumer, by the provider, the third party. and all rest will be the consumer's responsibility. So if any breach happens or anything happens that is concerned to the application or middleware, like the base of the breach was middleware or application, the consumer will be responsible for that. So now when we talk about platform as a security, here the provider has the access till operating system security and some access to the middleware security as well. Only the application security and the data access security is in the hands of the consumer. And in SaaS, there's nothing as shared responsibility. Only the data that you're putting in to run those applications or for storage purposes, or any kind of purposes, only the security of the data is the responsibility of the consumer. None other comes under the responsibility of the consumer. None other thing. But now, as I said, I call cloud security as data security. I think now you can comprehend why I do that, because data access security is only part that is common in all three of them that the consumer has to handle. So when we're talking about cloud security, so the major portion comes under the data and all these application security, middleware, operating system. Why will you secure them? You'll secure them only because your major concern is to protect your data. Okay. So now what happens is when it's a large organization, it's very common that it's very rare that a full organization relies on one cloud provider. They usually go for a strategy which is called as a multi-cloud strategy, so that they have more ability and flexibility to select from different services, and also the cost purposes matter. So uh, this is the strategy usually which is usually adopted by a lot of organizations. But there are limitations to this also. So limitations of some of the public cloud providers I'll be discussing. The major one is the second one that you read. These platforms alone are often insufficient when it comes to offering total data protection. So, as I've been talking about data protection itself for the past slides as well, so I think I don't have to explain this point so much, but this is one of the major points in which the cloud providers lack. And I don't think I would say that they lack at this point, because this is the thing the anyway consumer has to handle. The provider cannot take care of what kind of data you want or what kind of a data you want to store in what kind of applications or at what kind of folders or anything. That comes under the consumer responsibility itself. So that's not something limitation, I would probably say, even though I've mentioned in the limitation. But yes, this is something which lacks when you opt for a public cloud. This is something that lacks over there. And other things are, since it's a shared responsibility model. I would like to go back to the slide. Like the network security, in if I talk about infrastructure as a service, in network security there can be different parts of network security because it's a communication. So provider is doing something and consumer is doing something. So some parts are in the part of the consumer and some are at the part of provider. So at this point, what can happen is there can be a misunderstanding or miscommunication. Like provider would be thinking, okay, this is the thing that consumer would be handling. The consumer would think that this is the thing the provider would be handling, and that portion will be left by both of them. So that becomes vulnerable to the eavesdropper to get into your infrastructure. So that is one of the biggest limitations of the public when you opt for a public cloud. And these data breaches, misconfigurations, this is not something very uncommon, and it's very common, and it can happen in any industry, be it healthcare, be it transport, be it IT itself. Any industry can get into the trap of a breach, and they have some of the breaches have very common solution, which I think if when people are opting for a new technology, they opt for those solutions as well. Some of the things can be handled just like that. Okay. So now I'll be talking about a few tips, a few things that anyone who's opting for a cloud can incorporate to make their cloud environment a more secure cloud environment. First is being proactive. By being proactive, I mean that there should be a continuous check. Like there should be something which the scanning of vulnerabilities should be done continuously. Because if we let the let the sorry, if we let a breach happen, maybe then it just incorporates. If a malware enters your laptop, sometimes you don't even know. It just incorporates. So what happens is after a period of time, like a year or a two, or sometimes maybe even a longer time, when you get to know the breach has already happened, you have already suffered the loss. So it's better that anyone who's opting for the cloud, they should be proactive, be always keeping a check on the vulnerabilities. Second is correcting misconfigurations. If we are keeping the check on the on the vulnerabilities, this will happen that we are also keeping the check on the misconfigurations. If we have installed a software, the company builds a software. So, and in that software, they're trying to just test on their system. And if they see there's a misconfiguration, a continuous test is being performed, then obviously there'll be no issue of security. Before the hacker gets to know about the misconfiguration, you will be the one who will be who will be going to get to know about the misconfiguration. And the third is developing a clear security strategy. When a company has a clear objectives and based on the business objectives, they design a security strategy and they try to keep themselves up to date with the threat models. It's the chances of getting breached or hacked are they already reduced like by a major percentage. And third is keeping up with the identity and access management policies. It's very important to give the access to right people for the sensitive data. And the the last one is to be compliant. If you are from a healthcare industry, try to be compliant with a standard which is for the healthcare industry. If you are from something in which the personal information matters a lot, so try to be compliant with the standard which is more focused on protecting the personal information of the people. This obviously helps a lot. As a lot of organizations are trying to migrate to the cloud, as I said, when someone is opting for a new technology, they should it should be the priority to look for the security strategies as well. So when organizations try to migrate to the cloud, they too should look at the security strategies. And for that, there are a lot of vendors in the market which are working in this direction only, because they can help you look further comprehensively in the cloud security. Okay, so I'll give a very common example now. The example is like work from home only, we talk about. So, due to work from home, bring your own device has become like, even if the companies don't want, bring your own device has become a thing. Supposedly, if I'm sitting and an email comes and that email contains a important information or the sensitive information related to the company, and currently I don't have access to my laptop. What I'll do is I'll open that thing on my phone. So when I open the thing in my phone, and at the on the same device, I access my through the same device, I also access my social media applications, which are not very secure. So that can lead to the leak of information, which causes a lack of visibility because the company doesn't know that I'm accessing that document through my phone. So for the company, that's a lack of visibility, which can be a case of IT shadowing. So now I'll talk about some of the benefits of cloud security. It is centralized security. For each endpoint, a workspace, a workstation, you don't have to provide security. It's just one security that you're providing, and it'll work for all of the employees, like whatever they're using. And second is reduce the cost. Obviously, when you have a lot of infrastructure or the hardware, investing time and getting the results, everything takes time. So it obviously costs a little more than what the total cost of the cloud security would be. And third is reduced administration. Reduced administration would be something like you don't have to configure everything manually. Everything is being done in the background when you opt for a cloud security. The third party vendor, not the provider, not the cloud provider, but the vendor you have chosen for the security of the cloud, they will take care of the administration. So obviously there'll be no misconfiguration, as I said, because they are the ones who are taking care of your configurations. So the chances of misconfigurations are very less here. And the last is reliability. If you take the right measures in place for cloud security, it's more reliable than a hardware system that you work on. So this is the end of my talk. If you have any questions or if I made any mistake, please forgive me for that. And if there are any questions, you can put up here and I'll answer those questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kriti. It was a wonderful and
Thank you.
really, I think you summed up very well in terms of, the cloud service model, deployment models. And, here comes one of the fun fact about clouds from me. So, I have spoken to a lot of customers and, they have often asked us that, see, at on premises, we use a lot of techniques, lots of
Mm,
tools and solutions to secure our data. What happens to the data, our critical data when it is in cloud? And,
mm,
so one of the term that nowadays which we use in the cloud, that is known as crypto shredding. Actually,
huh,
once the life cycle of the data is over, you crypto shred the data in the cloud. You basically encrypt the data and you delete the keys. So that way you ensure that all your sensitive data, even if it is in the hand of a hacker, or if it is in a hand of a malicious guy, he won't be able to make it because it is all scrambled. So I would say very well summarized, and many thanks to you once again.
thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah, and let's move on. Today we have another guest lined up. We have Gunjan Chiller. So let me just quickly patch her in.